Hey everyone, Miss Gibbs here. Today we are going to make our Native American inspired symbol hide drawings. So write your name on the back and flip the paper over, and we're going to draw some symbols. That's the first step. The Native Americans' symbols that they used to tell stories on their animal hides were inspired by family, traditions, and everyday life. Those were the symbols that they used. But we are not going to copy directly from the symbols that the Native Americans used. I want you to come up with your own symbols that you are going to use to tell a story about something that's important to you in your life. So here are the symbols that I chose. You don't need to do your family. I chose to add my family in. I also chose to add my cat in. So think about what symbols you want to include on your animal hide. And you're going to draw them with crayon. You can add some color. And again, symbols are used to represent something. They are not highly detailed drawings. So that is why my family is made out of stick figures. I did that so that you're not going to copy me directly. I don't want you to do straight up stick figures. Be a little bit more creative than that. I did that as a placeholder for the idea so that you can come up with your own creative idea there. And next I drew a symbol for the school because that's where I come every day to teach. And what do I teach? I teach art. So my next symbol that I added in there is a paintbrush. That's an important part of my life story, teaching art. But you are going to add some symbols that are important to your life, whether that's something to do with your family or an achievement that you're proud of. So give some thought to what symbols you want to include as part of your story. The next step is to tear the edges so that we have a piece of paper that looks like an animal hide. You'll notice that my paper here is already painted because I decided that I want you all to tear the paper before you paint it. I actually went back and painted after this. So you will tear the paper as your next step after you finish drawing before you start painting. And you're just going to tear along the edge carefully. You're not going in a straight line. And be careful not to rip your symbols also. Where you're going to tear each side and let it make its own unique shape. The next step is painting. So I'm going to give you some watered down brown tempera paint. That's going to leave a wash of color on the paper. So it's going to be almost like painting with water. You'll just dip your brush in and do some long back and forth strokes. You don't want to get the paper too wet, but it is okay if this dries kind of uneven and ends up crinkling a little. because right now what we're trying to do is give this paper kind of an aged leathery look. Remember, brown is one of our neutral colors. Just want to point that out. So you'll see coming up next what it will look like when we paint over the edges. Remember, you will have already torn your paper here. And it's okay to go over it more than once. You want to see those brush strokes. Give it some visual interest. Here's where I went in and I covered those edges of the paper. Next, we are going to use a hole puncher and punch some holes along the edge of the animal hide that we made here. So you're going to space it out, maybe about an inch, inch and a half, and go all the way around the border with the hole puncher. Make sure you're not right at the edge. The last step that we will do is to sew with some yarn. This might look a little bit intimidating, but you will get the hang of it because I'm going to show you how to do it. So you'll start by pinching the yarn in between your fingers and threading it through one of the holes, starting underneath. Then you will take the yarn and go through the hole from the top, then go through the hole from underneath and pull the yarn through the hole, and then pinch it and go through the hole that way. And you can always pull that yarn gently when you need more. That way it stays easy to sew with because you don't have too much excess to pull through. But when you do pull it through, you want to make sure that you're doing it slowly so that you don't end up tearing your artwork. Now that we are at the end, there is actually one more step. The last step wasn't the final step. This is the final step. You're going to tie a knot so that your hard sewing work does not come undone. And you can do that just by tying the two pieces of yarn together. Well, it's really one piece. I mean the two ends of it together. By making one tie, and then you can tie it together again so that it locks in place. And once you're done with that, you can just cut the extra yarn.